I actually close my eyes and I pray that I can get back.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for story developments that shook up an entire season of a show. This is live action only, and there will be spoilers.
Oh God! Oh God!
Number 20, Season 9 Never Happened, Roseanne. The original series finale of the working-class sitcom saw Roseanne Connor telling us in voiceover that the entire 9th season was an extended fantasy. Her family never won the lottery. This was a relief because the show took a nosedive as a result of the family's newfound wealth. Roseanne then tells us that the entire series was a fictionalized version of her real life. The biggest blow came when Roseanne revealed her husband, Dan, didn't survive his heart attack at the end of Season 8.
I lost Dan last year when he had his heart attack. But he's still the first thing I think about when I wake up and the last thing I think about before I go to sleep.
Equal parts devastating and confusing, few people knew what to make of the finale's relentless onslaught of the show-changing plot twists. These revelations were then retconned yet again when the show was revived in 2018.
Well, looky here, written by Roseanne Connor.
Oh, trash that.
This would have sold like hotcakes if only you hadn't killed off the most interesting character.
Number 19, Chuck is God, Supernatural. The long-running CW show follows the demon-fighting Winchester brothers as they interact with denizens of the afterlife. Season 4 introduced the prophet, Chuck Shirley. Chuck is a surly writer who chronicles the brothers' exploits and knows more about them than they know themselves.
You Chuck Shirley?
The Chuck Shirley who wrote the Supernatural books?
Maybe. Why? I'm Dean, this is Sam. The Dean and Sam you've been writing about.
His intrusion in their lives is incredibly meta, but it's no stranger than demons invading the Earth, so it's kind of low on the list of weird things that happen on this show. 7 seasons later, everything becomes clear. Chuck reveals himself as a human facsimile of God himself. And God, at least the version in Supernatural, is pretty complicated as far as creators of the universe go.
God.
This revelation affected not just this season, but those that preceded it and those that followed as well.
We should probably talk.
Number 18, Leo's Death, The West Wing. After serving as President Jed Bartlett's chief of staff for most of the series, Leo McGarry was poised to serve an even higher office.
Access to the first-class treatment that I firmly believe saved my life.
He didn't really answer the question.
Doesn't matter.
The 7th and final season of The West Wing follows Bartlett's successor, who selects McGarry as his vice president. Then real life intervened. Actor John Spencer died during production of the last season, effectively changing his character's entire storyline.
Once again, Leo McGarry has been pronounced dead by Dr. Elliot M. Gross of the Texas Methodist Medical Center. He was rushed to the hospital after a massive heart attack.
Instead of serving as the next VP, his death would cast a shadow over his running mate's election night victory. Although it was a shocker, producers have since denied the myth that the show changed the outcome of its finale as a result of Spencer's death. Still, Leo's absence clearly affected the show's tone as it came in for a landing. Number 17, Big Dies, and just like that. On Sex and the City, Carrie Bradshaw's storylines are largely about her complicated love life. When she finally settles down with Mr. Big, that story seems to be over.
Carrie, you're the one.
Oh, kiss me, you big crybaby.
For a second, viewers thought the revival series would give Carrie a chance to be comfortable in her romantic life. But no, it wasn't meant to be. And just like that, immediately flushes Carrie's happy ending down the drain.
I'll see you later. What?
I'm just looking at you.
The married couple's wedded bliss ends suddenly at the end of the revival's first episode, which shows Big dying of a heart attack on his Peloton machine. Suddenly, the sequel series finds a way to throw Carrie back into the muck of a troubled personal life.
John! Oh, God. Oh, God, John. Oh, John, honey.
Number 16. Penelope is Lady Whistledown. Bridgerton. Move over, Gossip Girl. There's a new gossip queen on the scene. Lady Whistledown's frank observations of London's high society enrage and enthrall her readers, many of whom become characters in her gossip column. Although she's voiced by Julie Andrews, Season 3 finally reveals to the characters what audiences have known since Season 1, Lady Whistledown's true identity. She is none other than the unassuming and seemingly naive Penelope Featherington.
Especially for those of us who are told so little. But I can no longer conceal the biggest piece of information I have. My identity.
Penelope had everyone fooled. No one in her life takes her seriously, and so she is the last one they would ever think would be behind the column. The revelation shifts her entire standing within the social hierarchy and reshuffles her relationship with every character, including Queen Charlotte herself.
She seems humbled, but we will be watching that she remains so.
Number 15. Violet is a Ghost. American Horror Story. Ryan Murphy's horror anthology opens with a bang. In its first season, subtitled Murder House, the Harmon family moves into a house and is immediately besieged by the ghosts of its past. Of course, they don't know that at first. In fact, we're hardly ever really sure who's a ghost and who's not.
Excuse me, ma'am. I don't want to bother you, but I'm hurt and needing some help.
Has my wife medicated you? Are you here for the procedure?
The depressed Violet falls for one of these spirits, a disturbed and morbid teenager named Tate. When she tries to escape the house, he reveals the truth to her. She actually died after taking her own life a few episodes earlier. Her experience of the house since then has been as one of its lost souls trapped in its walls forever.
Like, how's it gonna be?
Just like this, like it's always been. It's you and me, together for always.
Number 14. Bernard is an Android. Westworld. Incredibly ambitious and cerebral, the HBO series puts a new spin on a sci-fi classic and is also a masterclass in misleading the audience. The first season has us following Bernard Lowe, who is introduced to us as a human programmer at the park. As he investigates the mysterious disruptions in the AI hosts, we eventually find out he's an android himself. Park director Dr. Ford lets us in on this little secret in spectacularly spooky fashion.
It can't be my wife. My son. They're real. I was a father.
This bombshell gives new meaning to Bernard's entire character arc and cleverly expands on the show's themes of human consciousness and free will.
He brought me here to show me this.
No, he brought you here because I asked him to. He's been very loyal for many years.
Number 13. The Bent-Neck Lady. The Haunting of Hill House. The 5 Crane children's childhood experiences in a haunted house didn't exactly set them up for success later in life. In this liberal adaptation of Shirley Jackson's classic horror novel, Nell Crane is haunted from childhood by a sleep paralysis demon she calls the Bent-Neck Lady.
Do you remember the Bent-Neck Lady?
Yes.
She's back.
Halfway through the season, it's revealed that the Bent-Neck Lady is not a ghost, but Nell herself at the moment of her own death. This is when we realize it's not just the trauma of their experience in a haunted house that dogs the Cranes in their adult lives.
Mom? It's okay, honey.
Hill House's evil infects them and never lets them go. Number 12. Ned Stark's death, Game of Thrones. Yes, the Red Wedding is iconic and brutal, but think back to that first season. Game of Thrones positioned Ned Stark as the classic fantasy protagonist. He is the noble soldier who will fight to defend the kingdom and the king he's aligned with. In George R.R. Martin's world, bravery will only get you so far.
What is to be done with this traitor, Your Grace?
Stark is beheaded in front of his daughters, all because the new king wanted to make an example of him. It's an act of pure brutality. Without its heroic and noble center, the show begins its descent into chaotic power games, where no one is safe.
Treason shall never go unpunished. Sir Ilyn, bring me his head.
Maybe we should have known Ned Stark was doomed. He was played by Sean Bean after all. Number 11. Ward is a double agent. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This small-screen Marvel offshoot sees Special Agent Phil Coulson forming a team of agents responsible for warding off supervillains.
That's bad, right? And given your family history, I'm surprised it's not worse. But I think you're the guy for this.
The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are all that stands in the way of the evil Hydra organization's plans for world domination. As in any spy thriller, betrayals are inevitable. When it turns out that S.H.I.E.L.D. operative Grant Ward is a Hydra double agent, it's a true shocker.
What do you think, Agent Ward? You shot the wrong clairvoyant before. Care to shoot the right one?
More than just being an effective twist, it changes the entire dynamic of the agency, irreparably shifting many of the relationships we've come to know over the first season. Number 10. The Bad Place. The Good Place. We loved The Good Place, and while the whole series was fantastic, the first season really set the standard.
There's been a big mistake. I'm not supposed to be here.
Wait, what?
That's largely because the team cooked up one of the best end-of-season twists of all time. At first, Eleanor and company are trying to navigate the ins and outs of the so-called good place following their deaths. Though they're supposed to be in a utopia, things seem to go wrong at every single turn. Then, Eleanor finally figures out the gambit. It turns out, the good place is actually the bad place. Everything that's happened to our four main characters has been orchestrated to help them hurt each other. It turns everything completely on its head, and brilliantly so.
Shall we?
You know what, bro? Do your worst. We figured it out once, we can do it again. Because you know what, Michael? Ya basic.
Number 9. Long Live David Clark. Revenge.
When the central story of your television show revolves around one character being dead, it can be pretty shocking to learn that said character is actually alive and well.
You know how much I love you, Amanda.
Infinity.
Well, infinity times infinity.
Revenge follows a young woman, Amanda Clark, who moves to the Hamptons under a false name, Emily. She wants to get revenge on the Grayson family, who are seemingly responsible for the death of her father, David, years before.
My father's chance to bring justice to the truly guilty was stolen from him. His only option was to forgive. I have others.
But at the end of season 3, the patriarch, Conrad Grayson, has just fled prison and is joined by a mysterious driver. Except that driver is none other than David Clark himself.
No, it can't be. David.
Yep, Amanda's father has been alive the whole time, reframing everything that happened that season and the ones before. Number 8. Ilnam is behind it all. Squid Game. There's arguably nothing more unassuming than an elderly man on TV, especially an elderly man with a tumor forced to play a bunch of deadly childhood games.
And let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars.
In Squid Game, we're introduced to Ilnam as one of the players. After he loses a game to our main character, Gion, we're led to believe that he's killed.
나 이름이 생각났어. 내 이름은 일남이야. 오 일남.
But in the season finale, a year after the main events of the series, Gion is taken to see a very much alive Ilnam on his deathbed. We learn that Ilnam was the orchestrator of the games. He created them so the wealthy could be entertained by the plight of the poor and participated just for fun. It makes us look back on every moment with new eyes.
왜 그러시는지 여쭤봐도 되겠습니까?
보는 것이 하는 것보다 더 재미있을 수가 없지.
Number 7. Agatha All Along, WandaVision. Sometimes a character is introduced and you just know something is up. And when you cast Kathryn Hahn, we have to assume she's going to have a pretty important role.
Well, it feels like we've always been together.
Lucky gal. The only way Ralph would remember our anniversary is if there was a beer named June 2nd.
But we could have never guessed the extent of Agatha's involvement in Wanda's manipulated WandaVision life. Hahn first appears as Wanda's wacky neighbor Agnes.
That you should stumble when you walk into a room so he can catch you. It's romantic.
Any other tricks?
You could point out that the death rate of single men is twice that of married men.
But in the 7th episode, she's revealed to be the witch Agatha Harkness, and we learn she's been responsible for the major disruptions to Wanda's life. With a fantastic musical sequence, the show even takes us back through major moments and demonstrates just how much of an impact Agatha had.
Now that everything has gone wrong, thanks to Agatha, naughty Agatha.
It's been Agatha all along! Number 6. Thaisa Sleepwalks, Yellow Jackets. Throughout the first season of Yellow Jackets, we're led to believe that something is definitely up with Thaisa. We eventually learn that she deals with sleepwalking, but it's not your run-of-the-mill stuff, which is revealed in the most shockingly twisty of ways.
If we're stuck out here long enough, I have a feeling it'll come out one way or another.
In the 2021 timeline, Thaisa's son complains about a woman in a tree outside of their house. Though she initially thinks he's imagining things, it ultimately becomes clear that there is indeed a lady. It's her. When she's asleep at night, her alter ego takes over and does horrifying things. It's a wonderful setup for what's to come as the story progresses and shines new light on both timelines.
No, Ty. He's seen me do it, Shauna. He's seen me do it. He thinks there's some other version of me. He calls it the bad one.
Number 5. Spike Gets a Soul, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Throughout the later seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, we're not quite sure what to think about Spike.
You got any more ready tests for me, you Ponce? I'll take anything you can throw at me, if it'll get me what I need to take care of the Slayer.
We know he has feelings for Buffy, yet it also seems like he might be trying to defeat her. Hey, he did start out as a full-blown villain after all. But then, we learn that's not the case. It's quite the opposite, in fact. Spike fought for the opportunity to regain his soul, and succeeded in doing so he could be good enough for Buffy.
Why would you
do shame on you. Why does a man do what he mustn't for her to be hers?
It's surprising in the moment, but looking back on it, everything about Spike's decision makes sense. It's the rare season-defining twist that's imbued with sweetness rather than shock value.
So yeah, I go and pass the time with someone. But that's all it is time. Just God help me, Buffy, it's still all about you.
Number 4. Not the Elliot we thought, Mr. Robot. You know those plot twists that come in at the end of a show's run and find a way to make you question everything you've watched up until that point? Well, this is one of those.
I know you're afraid, but the fear you have is a right one. It means you'll be forever vigilant.
Throughout Mr. Robot, we get to know Elliot, a hacker with dissociative identity disorder. Twists and turns abound as we learn the title character is Elliot's creation, and we understand we can't always trust the protagonist to be a reliable narrator.
Why would I trust any of you? You've been trying to kill me.
We've been trying to show you the truth, and you've been resisting.
Not this again.
Still, we believe our main window into the story is really him, not one identity that's taken over his body. And yet, the series finale reveals that this is exactly what was going on, with the mastermind having been in charge.
Even though we'll be gone, it's like Mr. Robot said. We'll always be a part of Elliot Alderson.
Number 3, it's in the past. Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica is one of the best science fiction shows in recent memory, but it has one thing going for it that many others don't. It doesn't actually take place in the future.
There are certain things that we've all done, certain things that people would be shocked to learn about.
That's right! After a miniseries and 4 seasons, the beloved show ended by revealing that Battlestar Galactica takes place in the past. When our beloved battleship finally lands on Earth, it's during prehistoric times.
Human beings naturally evolved on a planet 1 million light years away. The odds against that are astronomical, yeah.
Though the characters vowed to eschew their technology, the epilogue tells us that 150,000 years later, things evolved much like they did in the real world. After all, this has happened before, and it can happen again.
Technology run amok? Remind you of anything?
Take your pick. Cobol. Earth. The real Earth before this one.
Number 2, George is John Doe, Grey's Anatomy.
I joined the Army to be a trauma surgeon. I report for duty tomorrow.
You did what?
Yeah, that's how I thought we'd start.
It's always surprising when a main character is killed off, but because this is Grey's Anatomy, of course they had to do things in the most upsetting way possible. In the season 5 finale, a John Doe is brought to the hospital after he jumps in front of a bus to rescue a woman and is hit himself.
Unidentified male, dragged by a bus. He's clamped down so he couldn't innovate.
Didn't they stop when they hit him?
Bus driver didn't know he was there until he got halfway down the block.
His face has been wrecked and he's unrecognizable, but he keeps trying to write something for Meredith. When she finally figures out what it is, she starts freaking out. The John Doe is tracing 007, George O'Malley's hospital nickname.
It's George! It's George! It's George! John Doe is George!
George is the man who was hit by the bus, and his subsequent passing marks a turning point for the show.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1, Flash Forwards, Lost. Lost is one of the quintessential mystery box shows. As such, twists and turns define its legacy, like when we learn that Ethan isn't on the plane's manifest in the first season.
One of them isn't in the manifest. He wasn't on the plane.
Hello there.
But the biggest plot twist of all, and maybe one of the most effective ever, came in the 2-part season 3 finale. Flashbacks became a central part of Lost episodes, and for most of this one, we think that's what we're watching as Jack struggles.
There was no funeral, sir, only a viewing. Nobody showed up.
Nobody. You sure?
Just you. My deepest condolences.
Then, eventually, he meets up with none other than Kate. As he tells her that they need to return to the island, we realize that we're watching a flash forward, not a flashback.
We were not supposed to leave.
Yes, we were.
Did these twists make or break a season for you? Tell us in the comments.
I mean, horror is one thing, but to be forced to live bad writing.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.